Hello, beautiful and magnificent beings. Welcome to Energy and Light. I wanted to do something fun and playful for this video. So in this sleep session, we are going to regress back to childhood with bedtime stories and counting sheep. But before we begin, let us prepare for the session. Invocation. Calling in all Reiki masters, ascended masters, angels, and benevolent beings of the highest truth and compassion. Thank you for assisting us. May this Reiki session serve one and all for their highest and greatest good. Thank you for your presence here today. To further relax you, I will be combing a few drops of lavender essential oil into your aura. Hanshaze shonen, hanshaze shonen, hanshaze shonen. Chokore, chokore, chokore. Seiheki, seiheki, seiheki. Daikomyo, daikomyo, daikomyo. So now, I would like you to go back in time and recall one of your happiest childhood moments. Maybe it was a new bicycle on your birthday, a softball game with your friends, or something as simple as enjoying nature. Before all of the technology we have today, many of us spent more time outside. Remember how wonderful it felt being a kid again. All that freedom and not a care in the world. Remember that bliss and that childhood magic. Before you took on all the responsibilities as an adult, before all the heavy, the stress and the pressure we experience today, and just keep remembering the childhood magic. And now I want you to picture yourself in bed with one of your parents or perhaps a family member reading you a bedtime story, or when they were unavailable and would have you count sheep to fall asleep instead. 1. And now I'm going to share one of my favorite books with you. 2. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. 3. The boy's name was Santiago. 4. Dusk was falling as the boy arrived with his herd at an abandoned church. The roof had fallen in long ago, 6. And an enormous sycamore had grown on the spot 7. The sacristy had once stood. He decided 8. to spend the night there. He saw to it that all the sheep entered through the ruined gate, and then laid some planks across it to prevent the flock from wandering away during the night. There were no wolves in the region, but once an animal had strayed during the night, and the boy had to spend the entire next day searching for it. He swept the floor with his jacket and lay down, using the book he had just finished reading as a pillow. 14. He told himself that he would have to start reading thicker books. 15. They lasted longer and made more comfortable pillows. 16. It was still dark when he awoke, and looking up, he could see the stars through the half-destroyed roof. 17. I wanted to sleep a little longer, he thought. He had had the same dream that as he had a night a week ago, and once again he had awakened before it ended. He arose, 20. And taking up his crook to awaken the sheep that still slept, 21. He had noticed that as soon as he awoke, most of the animals began to stir. It 22. Was as if some mysterious energy had bound his life to the sheep, 23. With whom he had spent the last 2 years, leading them through the countryside 24. In search of food and water. They are so used to me, he 25. Thought. They know my schedule, he muttered, thinking for a moment. 26. Then he realized that maybe it was he that was used to the sheep's schedule. but there were certain ones that took a bit longer to awaken. The boy prodded them one by one with his crook, calling each by name. He'd always believed that the sheep were able to understand him, so there were many times when he read to them parts of his book that had made an impression on him, or when he would tell him of the loneliness or the happiness of a shepherd in the fields. Sometimes he would comment to them on how things were in the village he had passed. But for the past few days, he had spoken to them about only one thing: the girl, the daughter of a merchant who lived in the village they would reach in about 4 days. He had been to the village only once before. The merchant was the proprietor of a dry goods shop, and he always demanded that the sheep be sheared in his presence so that he would not be cheated. A friend had told the boy about the shop, and he had taken his sheep there. "I need to sell some wool," the boy told the merchant. The shop was busy. The man asked the shepherd to wait until the afternoon, so the boy sat on the steps of the shop and took a book from his bag. "I didn't know shepherds knew how to read," said the girl's voice behind him. The girl was typical of the region of Andalusia, with flowing black hair and eyes that vaguely recalled the Moorish conquerors. "Well, usually I learn more from my sheep than books," he said. During the 2 hours that they talked, she told him that she was the merchant's daughter, and spoke of life in the village, where each day was like all the others. The shepherd told her of the Andalusian countryside and related the news from other towns where he'd stopped. It was a pleasant change from talking to his sheep. "How did you learn to read?" the girl asked at one point. "Like everybody else learns," he said, "in school." "Well, if you know how to read, then why are you just a shepherd?" The boy mumbled an answer that allowed him to avoid responding to her question. He was sure the girl would never understand. He went on telling stories about his travels, and her bright Moorish eyes went wide with fear and surprise. As the time passed, the boy found himself wishing that the day would never end, that her father would stay busy and keep him waiting for 3 days. He recognized that he was feeling something that he had never experienced before, the desire to live in one place forever. With a girl with the raven hair, his days would never be the same again. But finally the merchant appeared and asked the boy to shear 4 sheep. He paid for the wool and asked the shepherd to come back the following year. And now it was only 4 days before he would be back in that same village. He was excited and at the same time uneasy. Maybe the girl had already forgotten him. Lots of shepherds passed through selling their wool. "It doesn't matter," he said to the sheep. "I know other girls in other places." But in his heart he knew that it did matter. And he knew that shepherds, like seamen and like traveling salesmen, always found a town where there was someone who could make them forget the joys of carefree wandering. I'm going to stop there in the first chapter. I hope you are able to enjoy this video and get something helpful, useful, and healing from it. Until my next video, highest blessings and infinite gratitude. There's much love for you here. Sat Nam.